Renowned for its iconic landmarks and diverse neighbourhoods, I'm taking you to one of my all-time favourite cities. As well as being a vibrant modern metropolis, it's a city where you can immerse yourself in some of the world's most important historical events. I'm Jetaway Joe, and I'm going to be showing you how to spend 48 hours in Germany's capital city, Berlin. Berlin is located in northeastern Germany, on the banks of the River Spree. With a population of 3.8 million, it's the most populous city in Germany and the European Union. Berlin Brandenburg Airport is 11 miles southeast of the city centre, and it finally opened in October 2020 after 14 years of construction and delays. The airport's well connected to the city by train, with the station being underneath the main terminal. Trains can take anywhere between 25 and 40 minutes to reach the city centre, depending on the service. A one-way ticket from the airport to Berlin city centre costs €4.40. Berlin is also well connected by rail. Berlin Hauptbahnhof, the city's main rail hub, offers high-speed and intercity connections to the rest of Germany, as well as international trains to neighbouring Poland, the Czech Republic, Austria, Switzerland and the Netherlands. Berlin has an extensive, well-developed public transport network, comprising of the S-Bahn, which is like a suburban commuter rail system, and the U-Bahn, similar to underground subway networks. The city also has trams, buses, and being flat is also really easy to walk around. A 24-hour ticket for use on Berlin's public transport in zones A and B costs €9.90. In all instances of public transport in Berlin, don't forget to validate your ticket using the machines on the platforms at stations. Random checks do occur on trains, so don't get caught out or else it's a €60 on the spot fine. I witnessed this happen on the U1 on a couple of different occasions. It's Friday night and I've arrived in Berlin. I'm checking in for 3 nights here at the Crown Plaza Berlin Potsdamer Platz. This hotel is on a quiet street roughly halfway between Muckenbrücke U-Bahn and Anhalter S-Bahn stations, while it's a 15-minute walk from its namesake Potsdamer Platz. It's a handy hotel for public transport, although there's very little nearby, so that's something to consider if this hotel takes your fancy. I was checked in and given room 458 on the 4th floor. Well, this room is really nice. I've kind of hit the jackpot here a little bit. Big comfy double bed, some good facilities in the room, it's clean, it's nicely decorated, but most importantly, it's very, very quiet. I can't hear anything in this room, so hopefully I'm going to get a good night's sleep, ready to explore Berlin tomorrow. Room facilities included a desk space big enough to work on, a large flat screen TV, and a hospitality tray that not only was well stocked, but also well replenished. There was a fridge and a couple of free bottles of water, and more than enough storage and wardrobe space, including an ironing board in the room, which was a bonus for my well-creased work shirts. Stepping into the beautifully tiled bathroom, it was spacious, clean, and felt every bit luxurious, with a bath and rainfall shower. The complimentary toiletries were a nice brand, and a fluffy bathrobe and slippers were provided too. There was also a hairdryer, not that I needed much use for it though. I know what you're all wondering though. Does it pass the bed test? Well, let's find out. Yeah, it passes. Saturday morning, and after an early night catching up on some well-needed sleep, I woke up ready to tackle the city.
It's always nice to let light into the room and crack a window open first thing. It even felt like spring was in the air on this fresh March morning. I made a cup of coffee, and because I'm pretty lazy first thing, I then went and sat back in bed for half an hour to drink it. Feeling even more fresh after that incredible rainfall shower, I wasn't taking any chances with the weather either, going for a jumper with my coat and the Timberlands too to keep my feet warm. Still, breakfast was quiet when I went down at around 8:30. I was expecting it to be much busier. I liked that the buffet was laid out around this open show cooking kitchen, and I liked even more that this hotel seemed to go down the quality route rather than quantity when it came to the buffet. Fresh poached eggs with a runny yolk as well as smoothies of the day were also appreciated by me, as was
cake for breakfast. Why not?
And why not indeed? There's always time for cake.
So I've had breakfast and I'm all fueled up for the day, so let's go see some of Berlin's key sites.
Looking at the map, I'd set out my own walking tour of Berlin's key sites and landmarks. First off was Potsdamer Platz, one of Berlin's major public squares and a road and rail transport hub. The square was left totally destroyed in 1945, and by 1961 the newly constructed Berlin Wall severed the square in two, leaving it in a desolate limbo until the fall of the wall in 1989. Today, Potsdamer Platz is a modern square full of skyscrapers, restaurants, cafes and shops. I found a small memorial to the wall here before continuing my walk up Ebertstrasse towards the memorial to the murdered Jews of Europe. Just 400 metres up the road, this 4.7-acre memorial to the murdered Jews of Europe has 2,711 concrete slabs. It creates a real sense of unease and a foreboding atmosphere as you walk through the slabs. It feels like you could be in the middle of a cemetery. Just across the road is a rather unremarkable car park. It's easy to walk past it, but it's the approximate location of the Führer bunker, where Hitler, along with new bride Eva Braun, spent the closing days of the war as the Red Army battered Berlin. Just one block behind the memorial to the murdered Jews of Europe, however, is arguably Berlin's most famous landmark.
And I'm here at the Brandenburg Gate, completed in 1791. The Brandenburg Gate then became a symbol of the Cold War and a divided Berlin. It was here in 1987 that Ronald Reagan famously challenged Mikhail Gorbachev to tear down the Berlin Wall.
Since German reunification, the Brandenburg Gate has become a symbol of German and European unity and peace, and is a focal point for the city of Berlin. The area around it is pedestrianised too, meaning there's plenty of spots and space to admire this neoclassical monument from. The sightseeing continued with a short walk through a park across the road to the Reichstag. Completed in 1894, this is another beautiful neoclassical building. It survived a devastating fire in 1933, total ruination in 1945, and during the Cold War was only used for one-off events and meetings. Today, tours of the building can be booked in advance, where you get to go up to the iconic dome that sits atop the building, offering excellent city views. I'll pop a link to the website in the description below. I then walked along Unter der Linden, a wide boulevard that runs through the middle of Berlin, taking in sights such as the Opera House, Berlin Cathedral, and the Humboldt University of Berlin on my way down to Alexanderplatz. Buildings on this stretch of boulevard are some of the oldest in the city. There's also many museums down here too, located on the aptly named Museum Island. Stepping into Alexanderplatz, there's a noticeable shift in architecture. Alexanderplatz got its name when the Russian Tsar Alexander I visited Berlin in 1805, and during the 19th century the square's importance as a transport hub grew. Alexanderplatz today was built in the 1960s by the East German government, and the brutalist concrete architecture definitely reflects that. This though is Alexanderplatz's most famous building. Behind me is the Fernsehturm, which is a broadcasting tower on Alexanderplatz, a square in central Berlin. It's the tallest structure in Germany and was built between 1965 and 1969 by the East German government. Its main focus is a broadcasting tower, but it also became a symbol of communist power. At over 1,200 feet high, the Fernsehturm, apologies for my German pronunciations here, is one of Germany's most visited landmarks and has an observation deck and revolving restaurant at the top too. A quick jump on the U-Bahn took me to Checkpoint Charlie, the best known border crossing between East and West Berlin. It's been featured in books, films and even songs. It's another Cold War flashpoint where the standoff between Soviet and US tanks occurred in October 1961 over the free movement of Allied forces between East and West. Checkpoint Charlie is located at a really busy intersection, so can get pretty crowded not just with tourists but also traffic. After a quick lunch on the go, my morning tour of Berlin's sights was over, and I jumped on the U-Bahn a couple of stops down to Platz die Luftbrücke, the name of which commemorates the Berlin airlift of 1948-49, where my afternoon activity was taking place. So walking tour is finished, and behind me is the terminal building for Tempelhof Airport. It was one of Berlin's 3 main international airports until it closed in 2008. And I'm going to go inside. Tempelhof is one of Europe's iconic pre-war airfields, and you can take a tour of its disused terminal building and US Army base. The crescent-shaped terminal building at Tempelhof is huge. At one point it was one of the largest buildings in the world, but ironically it was also once home to the world's smallest duty-free shop. The terminal was largely reconstructed by the Nazis in the 1930s from its original 1920s infrastructure. The airport was meant to be the international gateway to Germania, Hitler's glorious world capital and Aryan utopia. The terminal building is one of the best examples of Nazi architecture around. The tour is absolutely fascinating. It's informative and historical. It takes you through the terminal building, giving you a glimpse into the golden age of air travel. You'll check out the car hire booths, the unique feature of a joint check-in hall and baggage claim area, which are usually separate areas in most modern international airports, complete with baggage carousels, retro check-in desks and signage, as well as the gates areas before heading out onto the apron. Tempelhof is famed for its canopy-style roof that spans the gates area. At a time before jetways were common, this provided cover for passengers from the elements on the walk from the gate to the aircraft. You can just imagine people hurrying out from the terminal to get their plane. From here you get a true sense of the scale of this epic building, which spans roughly 1.2 miles. It also gives you a good overview of the wider airfield too. After the airport closed and operations ceased in 2008, the airport was turned into a large urban park. You can often see families flying kites and having picnics, Berliners going for morning jogs along the 2-kilometre long runways and adjoining taxiways, and folk out walking their dogs. Part of the airfield and hangars are used as a refugee camp too, housing migrants fleeing the conflicts in Syria and Ukraine. One of the coolest aspects of this tour was the hangar that houses classic aircraft from the era of the Berlin airlift of 1948-49, including an American-built C-54 and a Soviet-built Ilyushin Il-14. This is so cool. The end of the tour saw us visit a small fraction of the now defunct US Army base, giving a glimpse into the life of US forces who were stationed here. This section of the tour showed us disused bowling alleys, bars, and even a full-size basketball court. The tour also took us into the depths of the building and the World War II era bomb shelters that lay underneath. These shelters also have artwork on the walls from that time that were put up to apparently keep children happy and entertained in the shelter. I'm not sure on the happy or entertained part though, it kinda had the opposite effect on me. But just another layer of history in this fascinating and, quite frankly, unique building. That was an incredible tour of Tempelhof Airport. It takes 2 hours. If you've got the time, definitely do it. You won't be disappointed, and it's good value for money as well at €17.50, which I think is good for a 2-hour tour. Well, what a fantastic day of sightseeing, taking in Potsdamer Platz, the Brandenburg Gate, the Cathedral, Alexanderplatz, Checkpoint Charlie, and ending with that incredible tour of Tempelhof Airport. I've come back to the hotel after the tour, got showered, changed, and now I'm going to go out and see what Berlin's like on an evening. Gonna have a meal, some drinks. So let's take a look. Really tired though, I could do with getting in bed, but I'm gonna power through on this one. Berlin is famed worldwide for its nightlife. It can be as lively or low-key, or as weird and wonderful as you want it to be. Berlin's diverse neighbourhoods have it all. Traditional pubs, quaint cosy bars, speakeasy-style cocktail bars, a thriving LGBT scene, underground techno clubs that are open till morning. You name it, Berlin's got it. Not wanting to spoil my Sunday though, I opted for a more low-key evening in the bars of Friedrichshain. So I am really hungry, and there is one thing that I haven't had yet while I've been in Berlin. Let's go get some sausage. Currywurst is Berlin's most famous street food, and you'll find stands all over the city. It's a pork sausage topped with a tomatoey curry sauce, and I had mine with a side of fries washed down with a beer. It's a relatively inexpensive street food too, coming in at under €10 for the lot for me. And the verdict?
Give it a go. So good.
What a long day. I am exhausted. Gotta do it all again tomorrow. More stuff to see in Berlin. So, good night. My few beers and have an early night plan worked. I actually behaved myself and managed to get up and out of bed for just after 8 AM. I was feeling a bit more sprightly than usual, and I sat down for a 3-course breakfast banquet of a perfectly cooked poached egg and bacon on toast with potatoes, coffee, smoothie of the day, and not pictured was my fruit and yoghurt starter or the slab of cake and accompanying pastries that followed. Breakfast at this hotel really did hit the spot. So I'm going to peel back some more layers of history today. I'm going to start off at the Topography of Terror. Then I'm going to go to the Berlin Wall Memorial at Bernauer Straße. And then I'm going to go to the Stasi Museum in Friedrichshain. And it's a beautiful, glorious, sunny Sunday morning. I think the sunglasses are going to come out. That's much better. The Topography of Terror is an indoor and outdoor museum on Niederkirchenstrasse, just a couple of 100 metres from Potsdamer Platz. Situated on the former grounds of the Gestapo and SS headquarters, the museum provides a sobering insight into the mechanisms of state terror within the Third Reich. Through a blend of outdoor exhibits, documentation and powerful photographic displays, the Topography of Terror chronicles the rise of the Nazi regime, its oppressive policies, and the impact it had on millions of lives, reflecting on a truly dark period of world history. It's awful to think that people can do this to each other. That's the one thing about Berlin and Germany overall, is that they've really learned from their history, and they're not afraid to confront it. Very dark but interesting point of time. It's also a joint world history that we can all learn from to ensure it's hopefully never repeated again. The exhibitions continue inside, where the true extent of how Nazi terror was experienced throughout Europe, including in countries like Serbia and Greece, is documented and explained. The Topography of Terror is open daily from 10 AM until 8 PM, except some public holidays around the Christmas and New Year period, and admission is free of charge. Audio guides are also available free of charge too. At the Topography of Terrors, you'll find one of the best preserved stretches of the Berlin Wall. Built in 1961, it was built to stop refugees fleeing from the east to the west through Berlin. It later became a symbol not just of a divided Berlin, but of a divided world with the Cold War. This takes me on nicely a few stops up the S-Bahn from Potsdamer Platz and the Topography of Terrors to Nordbahnhof and the Berlin Wall Memorial. Getting off the S-Bahn, I noticed these markings on the floor of the station, markings showing the division caused by the wall. Because the station fell in East Berlin, no train stopped here between the 13th of August 1961, when the wall went up, and September the 1st, 1990, when the station reopened. Lines operated by West Berlin simply didn't stop at the station in the east, and although the trains passed through on their way from one West Berlin stop to another, these stations became known as East Berlin's ghost stations, frozen in time for 28 years. There's a small exhibition to these in Nordbahnhof. The Berlin Wall Memorial runs along Bernauer Straße, located just across the road from the station. In total, it's thought 136 people died trying to cross the Berlin Wall, some of them as late as March 1989. As well as having one of the longest and best preserved stretches of wall remaining, the most poignant aspect for me about this memorial was the wall to the victims who lost their lives trying to cross it. Chris Goyfroy, aged 20, was the last person to be shot and killed attempting to cross the Berlin Wall in February 1989, whereas Winfried Freudenberg, aged 32, was the last person to die trying to cross in March 1989. He died falling from an improvised hot air balloon he had built to fly over the wall in. This was just 8 months before the wall came down in November 1989. The memorial tells the story of how the wall separated families, lovers, friends and colleagues. East Berliners were cut off from their jobs in the West, and it had huge social, economical and political ramifications. Murals dot the sides of houses that line where the wall was, the most famous one being on the corner of Bernauer Straße and Brunner Straße, showing the now iconic image of 19-year-old East German soldier Konrad Schumann defecting to the West on the afternoon the wall was put up. Despite this leap to freedom, Schumann lived in fear of Stasi assassination, and upon reuniting with his family following the wall's collapse, he was rejected by them. Sadly, he committed suicide in 1998 at the age of 56. Schumann was one of thousands of East Germans who lived in fear of the Stasi, which took me on to my next stop in Berlin. Just jumped off the U-Bahn at Magdalenenstrasse and I'm about to walk up to the former headquarters of the Stasi, which was the East German secret police. Today though, it's a museum. This museum offers a chilling and insightful look into the operations of one of the most notorious secret police agencies in history, which maintained extensive surveillance and control over the citizens of the German Democratic Republic during the Cold War. The audio guide takes you through the original officers, including that of the infamous Stasi chief Erich Mielke, preserved with 1980s furnishings and equipment. Exhibits display a vast array of artifacts, from spy gadgets and surveillance equipment through to personal files and documents, revealing the Stasi's extensive infiltration of everyday life. The museum not only serves as a powerful reminder of the extent of state surveillance, but also as a testament to the resilience of those who resisted oppression, providing a poignant historical narrative of life under a totalitarian regime.
This is so cool. Most of these rooms haven't changed since 1989.
Well, that was a really interesting tour. So it takes about 90 minutes to do the tour, and you get an audio guide, all for €12, which I think is pretty good value for money, I think. But enough sightseeing done now. I've earned a beer. I nipped into a bar in nearby Friedrichshain, a gentrified area known for its trendy pubs and bars that are concentrated around Simon-Dachstrasse.
Cheers.
I've just got time to squeeze in the East Side Gallery before heading back to my hotel. Coming to the end of my trip, coming to the end of my 48 hours in Berlin, and what an unbelievable 48 hours it has been. Seen so much, learned so much. The amount of history here is unbelievable. But gonna squeeze this in before the end of my trip. The East Side Gallery is on the longest remaining section of the Berlin Wall, stretching 1.3 kilometres along the River Spree. It was transformed into an open-air gallery in 1990 and is now one of Berlin's most popular attractions. The gallery's most famous piece of art, My God, Help Me to Survive This Deadly Love, depicts the 1979 fraternal kiss between Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev and East German Premier Erich Honecker. Be quick though if you want to get a picture of it. This brought my whistle-stop weekend in Berlin, sadly, to a close. Well, it's Monday and my 48-hour trip to Berlin has ended. I've ended it here in Potsdamer Platz where I began on Saturday. Berlin is one of my favourite cities. It's got so much, especially if you're a history lover. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.